based on a true story in Khandwa, India. A young boy named Saroo and his elder brother Gudu go on to steal coal from a freight train. Unfortunately, they are caught by a guard, but they manage to escape. They go on to buy milk with the money they got from the coal. After a successful day, they take the milk back to their mum and little sister Shakalia. Although their mum is happy that her boys brought back something the family could use, she questions the source of the money and then finds out it was illegal business. Later that night, just as Gudu prepares to leave for work, Saroo asks that he join him, but Gudu won't allow him because Saroo isn't strong enough to lift bales. Saroo insists, and Gudu has no choice but to let him come along. Together they travel by train to Gudu's workplace. On arrival, Saroo falls asleep and doesn't wish to work anymore. Gudu faults himself for bringing him along. However, he tells Saroo to wait for him while he goes to work, promising to bring back lots of snacks on his way back. Saroo wakes up at midnight to discover that no one else is in the train station. He walks around looking for his brother as he calls out his name. After a long search, he retires inside the compartment of a train and then falls asleep. The next morning, he wakes up to find himself on a moving train with the doors locked. He calls out for help, but all to no avail. After a few days, he arrives at Calcutta, Bengal. Saroo realizes he is lost and tries to buy a ticket that will take him back to his hometown. Unfortunately, the attendant and everyone around him don't understand his language. Neither does the attendant recognize his village. So they brush him aside. With no hope of returning that night, he spends his night with some homeless street children. However, he flees when some men try to kidnap him and the homeless children. He goes over to a temple where he prays and then sleeps off again. The next morning, Saroo wanders around Calcutta. He tries to trace his way back home, but then he is met by a woman who understands Hindi. She introduces herself as Noor, as she offers to take him home to feed him. Noor seems to be a nice woman, as she takes care of Saroo, promising to bring him back to his mother. She tells him about a man named Rama who will help him return to his family. The next day, Rama comes to see Saroo. He tries to be comfortable with him and promises to take him back to his people. He tells Noor that Saroo is exactly the kind of person they are looking for, as he intends to come back to pick him up. The next morning, Saroo senses that Rama has bad intentions and runs away from the house. He is able to escape from Noor, who chases after him. Saroo begins life on the street again as he thinks about his mother. After 2 months of living under the bridge, he is met by a kind man who takes him to the police. He explains that Saroo doesn't understand Bengali and has come from Ganastale. The police take control as they put Saroo on a train with some other homeless kids that will take them to an orphanage home. Saroo arrives at the place where he meets so many children. Saroo introduces himself to Amita, his new friend. Saroo is told that the orphanage is a bad place as he plans on escaping. Saroo gets to witness this firsthand. The next day, a woman named Mrs. Sold comes to tell Saroo that they have asked around for his people and even published him in a local newspaper, but there has been no reply. However, there is an Australian couple that is interested in taking care of him. She convinced him that they're nice people, and Australia is a nice place to live. Amita also lets him know that he'll be living in a nice home as they bid their final farewell. Mrs. Sood teaches Saroo basic English as he prepares to leave for Australia. Saroo arrives in Hobart, Australia in 1987, where he meets his new parents, Mr. John and his wife Sue. They are so excited to meet their new boy as they bring him back home. Sue takes her time to show him around the house. She becomes fond of Saroo as she is always ready to listen to him. A year later, Saroo had grown to settle into his new lifestyle. He became really close to his adopted parents as they showered him an abundance of love. The couple get to adopt another boy named Mantosh. They bring him to the house and realize that he suffers from rage and tries to harm himself at every given chance. 20 years later, Saroo has turned into a fine young man. He plans to leave for Melbourne to study hotel management. Just as his parents take him out for lunch, they appreciate him for being a nice person, saying he was really all they hoped, although they wish his brother Mantosh had joined in for lunch. But Mantosh would wish to stay away. Saroo goes back home to see Mantosh smoking. He tells him that he will be leaving for Melbourne and pleads that Mantosh doesn't cause any trouble, cause their parents are going through a lot already. He leaves for Melbourne, where he meets his fellow course mates as they share ideas on what value the course will add to their lives. Saroo begins a relationship with an American student named Lucy. One time while he was having lunch with some of his Indian friends, he saw the snack that his brother Gudu would always get for him, and then suddenly remembered home. Lucy notices this and then tries to comfort him. Saroo reveals that he is not from Calcutta and he is actually lost. He narrates his story to his friends, revealing that he is from Ganaltase, but has had problems locating the town. They suggest that he uses Google Earth to search for his hometown. On his way home, Lucy reveals that her mom had died after refusing chemotherapy, and it had caused her pain since then. She advises him to search for his hometown and then his parents. Later that night, Saroo begins his search on Google Earth. He calculates all the passengers' train in 1979, looking for a clue that will lead him back home. 2 years later, Saroo had become obsessed with finding his hometown. When Lucy notices this, she asks that he join her for a run to help take his mind away from his issues. They go on to meet their parents for dinner. While eating, Lucy tries to bring up what Saroo had been up to lately, but Saroo stops her, as he doesn't want to reveal it to his parents. He goes back to Melbourne, where he continues with his obsessive search. He barely has any time for Lucy, as he sleeps in a separate room. Lucy brings him to a party, where she tries to make out with him, but Saroo stops her. She complains that Saroo has begun to withdraw from her and has totally neglected their relationship. Just as Saroo leaves the party, she runs up to him, telling him that he needs to face reality. Saroo fires back, claiming that he needs to find home and not abandon his real parents. He breaks up with Lucy, saying she deserves more. He begins his search again. This time it eats him up so deep that he begins having flashbacks and then eventually quits his job. One day his father visits him, telling him about Sue's condition and how Mantosh has gone missing again. Saroo meets up with Lucy. He tells her that he has been making little progress, revealing how much he has missed her. Lucy, on the other hand, tells him that his mom isn't doing well and he needs to go see her. Days later, after realizing how this search was eating him up, Saroo decides to visit his mom. Sue tells him that Mantosh has been found and he will return home soon to ask for cash and buy hard drugs again. Saroo asks her to forgive them for being a disappointment, even after she had adopted them from the streets. He learns that she is not infertile, as he had always assumed. Sue reveals that she could have kids, but chooses not to because she wants to help children through adoption. She had always wanted a brown-skinned child, and this was why she adopted them. She tells him she needs him, and he shouldn't stay away from her again. A frustrated Saroo returns back home, and he begins to scroll randomly through his laptop, feeling overwhelmed by how many searches he still needs to complete. He takes his mind away from the town hunting and randomly scrolls through. Just then, he finds an area formation that looks exactly like his hometown. Saroo becomes really interested and decides to look in more for other details. He sees landscapes similar to his flashbacks and then finds the area he had spent years looking for. He realizes that the actual name of the town is Ganesh Talai and not Ganaltase. An excited Saroo rushes over to tell Lucy about his discovery. She's really happy for him and promises to wait for him. Saroo also tells his adopted mom, revealing that he kept it a secret because he didn't want her to feel he was ungrateful. She promises to support him and prays he sees his biological mother. Saroo returns to India, and with the help of a local, he is able to reunite with his biological mother and sister. During an emotional scene, they embrace each other as he learns that Gudu is no more. Saroo returned after 25 years. He also found out that he had mispronounced his name wrongly, and his actual name is Sheru, which means lion. The end.